Nepali national serving in the Russian army has been killed, taking the number of deaths involving Nepalese fighting for Russia in the war against Ukraine to 7. The Foreign Ministry earlier this month had notified about the deaths of 6 Nepali citizens serving the Russian army. The latest death, that of Kailali's Chitrakar Parat Sha, was confirmed by his colleague in Russia. The unfortunate development is despite the fact that the government does not allow any of its citizens to serve in foreign army other than that of Britain and India. Good morning, I'm Chitrakar and these are the headlines of the hour. The government warns of taking action against human resource company who send people abroad without skill development training. Nepal police to charge the individuals arrested for taking Nepali youths to Russia under human trafficking. Death toll of Nepali nationals serving in Russia climbs to 7. Israeli strikes on Jabalia and Nuseirat refugee camp leaves at least 90 dead, even as talks of another pause in fighting builds. And Jude Bellingham continues his fine goal-scoring form as Real Madrid return to the top of La Liga, even as Girona have a game in hand. Nepal police have geared up to charge the individuals arrested for taking Nepali youths to Russia using illegal routes under human trafficking. District Police Range Kathmandu has said that the 13 arrested are going to be charged under human trafficking and swindling unsuspecting public. Police are investigating the case where it has come to the light that Nepali youths were taken to be recruited in the Russian army in collaboration with officials from the Russian embassy in Kathmandu. The Nepali youths had paid between 1 to 1.5 million rupees to get admitted in the Russian army. Meanwhile, the government of Nepal has failed to carry out anything substantial to rescue the youths who have been trapped in the Russian army. Nepal police have suspected the involvement of others in the human trafficking racket. Some 43 passports have been recovered from the arrested individuals. Kailali Chitrakar Parat Sha, who had reached Russia 3 months ago, has been reported dead. The family members of the deceased Shah have conducted his last rites as per Hindu traditions by making an effigy of Kush, as they have not received the dead body of the victim. The news of Shah's death has not been officially released by the Russian government, as the family members of the deceased said they received the tragic news from Shah's colleagues in Russia. Shah had worked in Nepal police for 7 years. He had resigned from the Nepal police to work as security guard in Dubai, from where he had joined Russian army 3 months ago. The Foreign Ministry on 1st of December earlier this month had reported of the death of 6 Nepali youths while serving for the Russian army in their war against Ukraine. It's International Migration Day today. The annual celebration on 18th of December is also observed in Nepal, seeking to establish rights of the migrant workers and their family members. The migration and cross-flow of people in terms of foreign employment, works, better life and education has shot up in recent time. According to International Labour Organization, there are about 2.75 million, in fact billion migrants, half of which have migrated for job employment. In Nepal too, about 1 million people have leave their home in search of better job opportunities. The primary employment destination of migrant workers from Nepal are Gulf countries and Malaysia. In the face of Nepali migrant workers having to cope with problems, including life-threatening, the government has warned the human resource companies of scrapping their licenses if the workers are sent abroad without skill development training and orientation. The Ministry of Labour has also stated that it is going to review the provision of free visa and free ticket for the migrant workers. The government has said that it has carried out various efforts to make foreign employment safer and more dignified. The government has also struck labour agreement with 12 nations to ensure the rights of the migrants, while similar agreements are in the process with 8 other nations. In our Public Voice segment, we had asked people in several provinces what should be done to secure the rights of migrant Nepali workers. Let's take a look at what they had to say.
विदेशमा जाने कामदारहरूलाई राज्यले भाषा सिप सिकाएर मात्र पठाउनु पर्छ।
कुन देशमा रोजगारीको लागि जान्छ त्यो देशको नियम कानुन र औषधि उपचार उनीहरुको बीमाका कुराहरू उनीहरुले पाउन पनि उचित प्राथमिकको व्यवस्थामा सुसज्जित गराएर पठाउनु पर्छ।
कतिपय तलब पाएको छैनन् त्यसमा सरकारले बुझ दिनु पर्यो र बोल दिनु पर्यो।
लिगलबाट गएपछि अटोमेटिक सुरक्षित होला जस्तो लाग्छ।
त्यहाँ स्थित नेपाली राजदूतावाससँग समन्वय गर्ने र उनीहरुको हक हितको लागि चाहिँ पहल गर्नुपर्छ सरकारले।
विदेशको सरकारलाई मलाई यो समस्या पर्यो जोसँगै समस्या पर्यो भने मलाई यो समस्या पर्यो भनेर गुहार
के नियमहरु छ त्यो सबै बुझेर जाँदा चाहिँ सहज हुने गर्छ।
श्रमिक के छ श्रमिक अनुसार सम्झौता गर्ने
श्रम स्वीकृति लिएर जानु पर्यो।
म्यान पावर कम्पनीहरुले जुन नेपालीलाई झुठो बोल्ने ठग्ने काम गर्दैछ त्यस्ता म्यान पावर कम्पनीलाई पनि नेपालमा दर्ता खारेजीदेखि लिएर कडाभन्दा कडा कारबाही हुनुपर्छ।
सिप सिकाएर पठाउनु पर्छ त्यसप्रति राज्यले गम्भीर हुनुपर्छ।
इन्स्योरेन्सहरुको व्यवस्था गरिदिनु पर्यो।
इलिगली तरिकाले पठाउनु भएन।
मेन पावरले तोकेको तलबदेखि लिएर तल कामदेखि सबै सेक्युरिटीदेखि सबै हिसाबमा नेपाल सरकारले अलिकति ध्यान दिए।
धेरै दुःख पाएको छ भने आउने मन छ भने मान्छेहरुलाई उनीहरुले निकाल्दिनु पर्यो।
नेपालबाट स्वीकृति प्राप्त भएको देशमा मात्रै जानु पर्यो।
The government on 29th of November last month had decided to mobilize security personnel for the rebuilding in the earthquake-hit region. However, almost 3 weeks since the decision, nothing substantial has been done in the post-earthquake rebuilding. The cabinet on 29th of November had decided to mobilize the Nepal Army, Nepal Police and Armed Police Force for the construction of temporary houses built for earthquake victims. The cabinet decision had provisioned for 90 security personnel at every local body for the reconstruction works. However, the decision has not been implemented as the government has not even been able to provide compensation amount to the beneficiaries. 90 security personnel have reached Jadarkot's Pheri municipality, the epicenter of the earthquake, while the other local bodies have not seen any security personnel so far. In Rukum West, Chaurzhari Musikot municipality and Tribeni rural municipality, some 35 security personnel have been mobilized for the rebuilding works. Likewise, 125 Nepal Army personnel have been mobilized in Sani Bhedi rural municipality and Atwiskot municipality, while other local bodies are yet to receive any of the pledged security. Of the total of 60,000 earthquake victims, only 5,000 have constructed temporary homes. 12,000 have struck an agreement for the first installment relief assistance. Experts say that lack of coordination among the three tiers of the government has contributed to the slack reconstructions. The victims, meanwhile, have been compelled to live in makeshift tents. The deaths of 34 earthquake victims have been reported as they languish amid the dip in temperature. Even as the government and the Nepal Rashtra Bank have made efforts to revamp the real estate market by making policy-level changes, its effects have not been witnessed. According to the statistics of the Department of Land Management and Archive, transactions in the realtor market has been decreasing. There weren't many transactions in the Nepali calendar month of Kartik due to the Dasai Tihar festivals. In the month of Asoj, 131,803 houses were sold and bought, while in Mangsir last month, it was limited to 117,000. The department says although there has been improvement seen in plotting of land, transactions have not increased and revenue was less in Mangsir compared to earlier months. According to the Department of Land Management and Archive, revenue has not increased as real estate transactions have been less in urban areas as compared to rural areas. After the government lifted the restrictions imposed in land plotting, the Nepal Rashtra Bank also lowered the risk in real estate loans. As investors are not confident on the price of land increasing, transactions have not increased. The slump in the real estate market has also affected cooperatives. Time now for our segment, Public Pulse, where you text us with your opinion.
Public Pulse.
Here's the question. What's your take on the Prime Minister's statement that the ministers and secretaries have failed to work as per directive? The options are A. Helpless Prime Minister, B. Lack of accountability, and C. Political ploys. Voting is on. Type any WS, select your option A, B or C and send it to 34001 to share your opinion with us. Time now for international update. Mass casualties have been reported in Israeli strikes on the Jabalia and Nuseirat refugee camps as Israel continues to hit Gaza hospitals. In Jabalia refugee camp, it killed 90 Palestinians according to Al Jazeera. Elsewhere, Israel's military claimed to discover the biggest Hamas tunnel in Gaza. The World Health Organization described the situation at Gaza City's Al-Shifa hospital as a complete horror scene and called the destruction of Kamal Adwan Hospital appalling. It is reported that hungry and desperate Palestinians are looting aid trucks to get water and food as desperation mounts in southern Gaza's Rafah city. An Israeli military sniper has reportedly shot and killed 2 women inside a Gaza parish on Saturday. Pope Francis spoke about the reported killings, saying there are no terrorists in the church complex. Meanwhile, U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin will push Israeli officials to define milestones for the war with Hamas during a visit later today. At least 18,787 Palestinians have been killed in Israeli attacks since October 7. The revised death toll in Israel stands at nearly 1,140. Russian President Vladimir Putin has warned there will be problems with neighboring Finland after it joined the North Atlantic Treaty Organization or NATO earlier this year. Finland's ascension to NATO marked a major shift in the security landscape in Northern Europe and added some 1,300 kilometers to the alliance's frontier with Russia. It was also a blow for Russian President Putin, who has long warned against NATO expansion. Putin said in an interview the West took Finland and dragged it into NATO, and Russia does not have any disputes with Finland. He further said territorial problems have all been resolved long ago in middle of the 20th century. Putin added in the interview by Russian state broadcaster, Russia won, there were no problems, but now there will be because Russia will now create the Leningrad military district there and concentrate military units. Putin also dismissed as complete nonsense remarks from US President Joe Biden, who earlier this month warned that Putin would keep going if he takes Ukraine, suggesting that Russia could eventually attack a NATO ally and draw US troops into conflict. Putin added Russia has no desire to spoil relations with NATO countries, but are interested in developing relations. Finland became the 31st member of NATO when it joined in April earlier this year, doubling the security alliance's direct frontier with Russia. A dozen people have been killed in an attack at a holiday party in the central Mexican state of Guanajuato. The attack took place at dawn in the town of Salvatierra when an armed group opened fire on party-goers attending a posada, a traditional Mexican party held in the days leading up to Christmas. The state's Attorney General office said on X that 12 people had been killed without giving any more details. Guanajuato, home to a significant number of automotive and aeronautics factories, has in recent years become one of the most violent states in the country amid clashes between powerful drug trafficking groups. North Korea has fired a long-range ballistic missile into the sea, Reuters and Yonhap news agencies have reported, citing the South Korean military. It was the second suspected ballistic missile launched by North Korea within hours. The long-range missile was fired just a few hours after Pyongyang had fired a short-range missile. The consecutive missile launches followed a warning from the US and South Korea, which threatened North Korea's annihilation if it used nuclear weapons. The test fire was conducted from an area near the capital Pyongyang towards the sea off the northeast coast, South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff said. Japan's Coast Guard said that the missile, which appeared to be fired from North Korea, fell into the sea west of Hokkaido about an hour after the launch. The flying range and the missile's altitude could not be ascertained immediately. It is suspected that the international airport serving Pyongyang is where the missile assembly takes place in North Korea. Today's long-range missile was North Korea's second missile launch in less than 12 hours. It had fired a short-range ballistic missile last night, which flew about 570 kilometers from an area near Pyongyang and fell into the sea. US President Joe Biden has been reported safe after a car collided with a motorcade SUV that was part of the president's security detail. Biden and First Lady Jill Biden had just left his campaign headquarters when the collision occurred. According to the White House press pool report, the Bidens had emerged from the Biden-Harris 2024 headquarters in rainy downtown Wilmington at 7 minutes past 8 p.m. after having a meal with members of his re-election team at the time of the incident. Moments after Biden responded to a question from a reporter, a silver sedan with Delaware license plates hit what seemed to be a motorcade SUV, shielding the motorcade at the intersection across from the entrance of the campaign headquarters. Video showed Secret Service agents escorting Biden to his car after the impact. The silver sedan, which sustained damage to its bumper, was quickly surrounded by security officers after it stopped. Agents cornered the car and pulled weapons on the driver, who held his hands up. The Bidens returned safely to their home in Wilmington following the incident. Drone footage showed extensive flooding in Cairns, Australia, as heavy rain cut off several tourist towns in Australia's northeast along the Great Barrier Reef. Cairns, the gateway town to the Great Barrier Reef and home to more than 150,000 people, received around 600 millimeters of rain over 40 hours through early morning today. That is more than triple the December average of 182 millimeters. Ex-tropical cyclone Jasper lashed the far north region of Queensland state last week, leaving a trail of destruction before getting downgraded. The Weather Bureau has forecast more rain, with some regions expected to pick up 300 millimeters of rain in under 6 hours. Major flood warnings have been issued, with rivers set to break records set in 1977. And before wrapping up, here's a look at the top stories once again. The government warns of taking action against human resource company who send people abroad without skill development training. Nepal police to charge the individuals arrested for taking Nepali youths to Russia under human trafficking. Death toll of Nepali nationals serving in Russia climbs to 7. Israeli strikes on Jabalia and Nuseirat refugee camp leaves at least 90 dead, even as talks of another pause in fighting builds. And Jude Bellingham continues his fine goal-scoring form as Real Madrid return to the top of La Liga, even as Girona have a game in hand. That's all for the moment. Thank you for watching. Good day.